I'm Suzi Landolfi, and welcome to Be Crazy Well. Now, why would a therapist say that? Because we all have mental health struggles, even therapists. The good news is we have so much more information about how we can be crazy well. On my podcast, we don't focus on what's wrong with us. We want to know what happened to us. We're going to explore how trauma affected us, both negatively and positively. That's right. I said positively. It's called post-traumatic growth, and it's a real thing. Be Crazy Well will share mental health wellness practices, the newest mental health research, and most importantly, how we all get to create the person we deserve to be and the life we deserve to live. So join the mental health evolution and be crazy well. So, Amber Rhodes, I have been a big fan of yours ever since I met you. And that's just a fact. We've been through a lot together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet both of your kids are taller than I am now.
No.
No, which ones?
Oh, they're so little. Bradley is just got taller than me this year.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I got shorter this year though.
Oh,
So let me introduce everybody to you. Hi, everybody. This is Be Crazy Well. I couldn't think of anybody more well crazy than Amber Rhodes. So I have invited her here as one of the role models of being crazy well. And she was nice enough to say yes. And we go back. And people know, Amber, that on this podcast, we're here to be better by doing better. Like doing different makes us better, not just thinking about it, not just feeling about it, but to actually do different. And I met you when you came to the Warrior Path at Boulder Crest because you decided, gosh darn it, I want to do different. And
yeah.
you came a couple of times. So we're going to hear your story about, first of all, your military experience and then how we met. And then I want to save the bulk of all of this for all the wisdom that you have acquired, that you personally have sought out and practiced and been able to share with me. And I thought, like, this has to be shared with everyone and anyone who wants to know. Remember, there's two kinds of people in the world: people who want to know and people who don't want to know. You and I know some people that don't want to know.
Oh,
They
yeah.
already think they know,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So they got no room for wanting to know anything else. So Amber, tell us a little bit first about your military career, and then what happened when we were meeting you, and what you have practiced and discovered through your practice.
My military career was I joined the military, the Air Force, when I was 21. I went into explosive ordnance disposal, which is like the bomb squad for the military. And I was in the military for 6 years. I did deploy. I went to Iraq for about 4 months. And I mainly went in for money for college, and my experience did not change my mind. I did not want to make a career out of it. So I got my bachelor's degree in psychology with the GI Bill, and I'm working on my master's degree in library and information science with a data science certificate. Yeah.
Because you're a smarty pants. You're like so so hard to keep up with you. All right. So Amber, why did you go into the military? Because your childhood was so wonderful, right?
Oh, it was great. Yeah. Alcoholic father, drug addicted father, alcoholic mother, drug addicted mother, extended family was all alcoholics, drug addicts. Um, I was the first to go to college in my family, actually. And I had to figure it all out on my own. So when I left home, my family is very chaotic. My parents fought all the time. They fought with us. It was abusive, whole nine. Um, I went into college when I was 19. I took a year off so I could save up, and because I paid for it myself. So I did community college for 2 years, ran out of money, and thought the best way to not go into debt was to join the military and get the GI Bill. So that was my whole motivation for going into the military, aside from getting out of the town I lived in.
Except, wait, you could have just gone into the military, but you
Mhm.
signed up for probably the hardest training and the most dangerous job. So, having already come from a dangerous family,
Mhm.
I would say I'm not surprised. So, you just didn't go into the military. You went into the military
Yeah.
in the most difficult, most dangerous job.
I did. So I took the ASVAB test, and the recruiter handed me 2 binders of jobs and said, "You're qualified for all of these." And I was like, I have no experience with military. I have no idea. Can you kind of narrow it down for me?" And he was like, "Well, do you want a desk job, or do you not want a desk job?" And I was like, "Well, sitting behind a desk doesn't sound like any fun, because that's those are the jobs that I had before the military." And so he showed me they only these binders only give you like a paragraph of what the job is and describes.
Right?
And sometimes you can figure out what it is. So some of like firefighter, I could figure out what the firefighter was. I don't want to do that. Um, and then it just sounded like the most interesting one. And he explained, like kind of explained it further to me. He's like, "Are you sure you want to do that one?" And I said, "Well, yeah, that sounds pretty interesting." And he said, "Well, the school's really intensive. It's a year long." Um, and I found out that I actually did the math. We take 52 tests during the year, and you have to score an 80% or higher to pass. And if you don't pass, you go in for the first time, you go in front of a board if they let you. They have to let you. And convince them that you're going to pass the second time. And if you don't pass the second time, you're out.
Oh,
Yeah. So and I know that I knew going in, I'm like, well, I test really well. I'm good in a crisis. I can, manage anxiety. Like lived an anxious life. Like that was normal to me. Um, so yeah, I thought it sounded really fascinating, and it involved a lot of travel, which is what I wanted to do.
so you passed?
I passed. Yes.
And,
I did fail 2 tests, but I got to retake them
mm-hmm.
and passed.
Oh, wow. So when I tell people that our childhood can give us quote unquote superpowers, I mean, you just named it in such a great way. I already lived with chaos.
Mhm.
I mean, people were blowing up all the time, literally, and figuratively.
Yep.
Therefore, and I do well under crisis.
Mhm.
So this made perfect sense. So instead of saying I've had enough of that, you said, wait, I really know how to handle this.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So we do go towards the familiar.
To
We do.
to our own detriment sometimes.
That's right. That's exactly right. Because sometimes we don't need any more familiar.
Mhm.
We need something that supports us, not just challenges us. Would you
Yes,
agree with that?
absolutely.
So so then you met somebody. So you met another EOD person. Is that correct?
I did. Mhm.
And where did you meet this person?
In Alaska.
Okay.
In Alaska, they have live bombing ranges, because the EPA is not a big deal up there. So, yeah, it's where all the pilots go to drop live bombs, which means they'll drop the 300-pound bombs,
Hmm.
and some of them don't explode. It's a percentage of them don't explode because of the safety measures put in place. So it's our job in the summer, to clear those ranges. So we go out and explode the ones that didn't go off. And we recruit people from different bases to come up and help us. And he happened to be, at one of those different bases. Um, and so that's how we met.
Okay. And you have two children.
I do have 2 children.
You have two children.
Yeah.
So I met you when you came to Warrior Paths. Let's start there. Tell me what was going on in your life when you decided, once again, like you did decide to go to the military and go back to school, that you deserved to come somewhere and get some support.
So the first time I met you, the family path, I wasn't the one that signed up for it. What was happening was I found out um, through uh, my computer. I got contacted by a girlfriend of my husband's. He cut things off with her, and she's decided to track me down and say, "Hey, guess who I am?" Um, and through that, I learned about multiple affairs throughout our entire marriage. Um, and so it was actually his idea to do the family path, I think, in an effort to keep me around. So that's how I first met you.
That's right. It was
With
Warrior
family
Path for families
support.
first.
Yes, families
Yeah.
first.
Hmm. And
Yeah, and we did that. And then you pulled me aside and said, after hearing about my story and what I'd gone through with this abusive marriage, um, you said, there's an all-female path happening in Virginia. These dates, you will be there. I'm signing you up. You don't even have to apply. You're going. I
wow,
said,
that
okay.
sounds like a really
Yeah.
controlling. Right.
But I think like where the headspace I was in at the time, I needed that. I needed someone to, I wasn't reaching out. I wasn't getting help. I was just kind of devastated by all of it.
So, Amber, what you and I learned, and I've learned, and then I've shared with others, is that trauma is cumulative.
Hmm.
So, with all of the betrayal in your childhood, like,
Hmm.
oh, I'll take care of you, I'll be a good, safe parent, I'll do that. That's was all a lie. Like,
Right.
nobody did that.
No.
So, there's one huge, big, long, intense betrayal.
Hmm.
And then the marriage is another betrayal, right?
Hmm.
So what I saw is I saw somebody who was coming close to the point where it's too much trauma. It's too familiar. It has worn you down.
Hmm.
And this woman who signed up to be a bomb tech is now not able to even sign up for her own safety and her own well-being,
Right.
right? And would you say that's a pretty accurate assessment of where you were at?
It's very accurate.
Yeah.
I wasn't eating right. I wasn't sleeping. I lost weight. I didn't have any weight to lose.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Hmm.
yeah.
And you
Yeah.
had two amazing children.
They are amazing. They are incredible kids. They're really good.
Yeah, they are. So you went through the warrior path, all female. Then
Mhm.
go back and what happened in the next couple of years.
After the female warrior path, the next couple of years were pretty turbulent. We separated, um, and I think I wanted a divorce, but I let him manipulate me and convince me that he could be different and things would be different this time and everything would be fine. And we got back together, and within a year of buying a new house, I found out he was cheating again, and I said, enough. I had enough. I'm done.
So what would be different this time was consciously you said yes. You said manipulated. At the
Yeah.
same time, one of the things that we all get to do for ourselves is when I said you were under the weight of too much trauma, and I saw you sinking, and you knew you were sinking, and you
Yeah.
couldn't give yourself your own life raft. Uh, Myself, others stepped in and said, no, 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 this is what you deserve. You
Hmm.
deserve this. So then what's interesting about when you reach out for help and then you get help and you get practices and you understand that this is not what you deserve and here's what you get to do for yourself. You went back in, maybe being manipulated again. I agree with that. I would also say hopeful that
I
if this could work, it would be a nice gift to be able to give my children, right?
was.
Is
Yeah.
that
My,
true?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I came from a house where like a broken home.
Yeah.
So that was kind of at the forefront of my mind. Like I wanted to give my kids what I didn't have.
That's exactly right. So I would say that there's hopeful can also feel like manipulation. That
Hmm.
somebody is so good at manipulating. Maybe you're just so good at being hopeful,
Okay. Yeah. That
right?
could be,
Because I just
that's
don't.
probably part of it. And that was probably played on too.
So I'm just thinking anything. anybody who decides that they're gonna, detonate bombs and all like that, I say you're pretty friggin' hopeful.
Yeah. Oh,
Right? You're gonna have to have a sense of like, oh, I want to get through this, or this one's not gonna blow up, or I think I'm pretty. You know what I mean? There's a sense
yeah.
of that. I want to read something to you that you read. You said, okay. So now the marriage is over. Let me just start
Yeah.
there. Marriage is
There's one.
okay. So, and you said that there's no love bombing, no future faking, no devaluation, and discard. I'm going to read that again. You wrote to about your dating life or this new, situation in your life. You said no love bombing. I just want to say, as an EOD person, I thought that was terrific. You like used the word bomb in there so well. No
Mhm.
love bombing, no future faking, no devaluation, and discard. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to tell me about what you mean by no love bombing. We're going to go through these 4 things. What is that?
Okay. Love bombing is when someone meets you and it's too much too soon. They tell you things like, I've never met anyone like you before. They tell you they love you very quickly. For my marriage, it was like 3 weeks in to knowing me. And they shower you with like compliments and gifts, and it feels nice. Like at the time, it feels nice because I never got any of those things
Right,
growing.
right.
So at the time, it felt really nice. And I remember saying to him, and I think I told you this in the women's path. I remember saying to him, "You feel like home," and that was the worst thing I could have felt because home was terrible. Like, and
That's
I didn't at the time did not make that connection
right.
because
It's
it
familiar.
felt familiar.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so no love bombing. That's like dropping a whole bunch of bombs,
Oh
right,
yeah.
on
Mhm.
something at too much too soon. I loved how you said that. There's no way that someone can feel that. That is from insecurity. That is from wanting to capture. That is from our own insecurity. That is taking someone hostage. That's not loving them. That's
It,
literally about control. Then
it
you
is.
said no future faking. What
Mhm.
does that mean to you?
Future faking is where like somebody will tell you, like, for example, like he told me, oh, well, one of the places I always wanted to visit was Italy. Guess where I've never been? Italy.
Ah,
Still. Like,
ah, ah.
so he would say things like, oh yeah, we'll travel, like, because I wanted to travel. He'd be like, oh yeah, we'll travel, we'll save up all this money, we'll have this great life, like it'll be wonderful. We'll do things this way, it'll be great. You're the love of my life. Like I I only want to grow, I want to grow old with you. Like all of the things that are nice to hear, but they do it in such a way that they use the things that you've told them because you confide in them. They use the things that you've told them to kind of even kind of I guess ensnare is a good word, like
Yeah.
ensnare you further into the relationship, and so you feel kind of hooked.
You got that big old hook in your mouth, right? And it's not catch and
Yeah.
release, it's catch and eat. It's
Yeah.
not catch and release. Okay, future faking. I love that.
Mhm.
I know what devaluation is, but I want to hear from you. When did that start and what does that look like? No devaluation.
So it did start very early on, but it was subtle. Um, and then later on, it became more insidious and cruel.
Yeah.
So the devaluation is where in the beginning you were wonderful, you were great, you're amazing, and then all of a sudden you can't do anything right. Nothing you do is right. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. You start to get called names. They start to tell you you're a terrible person. You're this, you're that. Like they play on all of your insecurities. So, for example, he knew mine was him leaving, and so he would threaten divorce every time we had any kind of argument. He would threaten to leave,
Right.
and then that would send me into my no, please don't go. Please, like, don't, no, don't do that. Don't, please don't go.
Right. So then you'd have to back down from
Mhm.
any kind of boundaries or principles, needs, right? There would be
Yeah.
this sense then that he already one-upped you. And
Mhm.
women can do this too. I mean, one of the things we
Oh, yeah.
need to say to everybody is that this isn't gender specific
No.
at all. This has nothing to do with race or gender or anything of that, like sexual orientation. This is done human to human based on trauma and based on whether or not somebody wants to understand what happened to them, how it affected them, and what they get to do to not be held hostage themselves by their own trauma.
Mhm.
So that would be the person doing all of this. And you just mentioned the fourth one by saying the threat of being discarded.
Yes. Yeah. And the discard could look anything from like silent treatment.
Mhm.
I got that to there would be these like monologues of like all of these things I did wrong and everything was always my fault and um to where like from the beginning of the monologue to the end of the monologue I ended up feeling like I don't even know what to address first like you've given me like so like you've given me you just like word vomited like
Mhm.
all of my worst fears, my worst insecurities, you throw them in my face. Like, I don't even know where to start. And so you don't.
Yeah. So you don't, that's right. You don't. And one of the things that you said that helped you was you have a superpower of being able to handle anxious or very dangerous situations. The body can only take so many of those. Like we have some time and some quantity uh, parts of us, meaning that the physical body and the emotional body and mental body can only take so much. We think we're indestructible. We think that, oh, I got through that, I can get through anything.
Yeah.
Not always. Not
Yeah.
always, because it's taking a toll. And it's the same with working out. Like you can work out so much that you break down,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't get stronger. You're literally breaking down your muscles and your bones. So there's that aspect too of it. That every time we say, well, I'm strong, I can get through it. Yeah, you might want to reconsider
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to have to pay for that somehow,
Yes.
some way.
Yeah.
So then, what was the moment and the inciting incident, we like to call it, where you said, this really is it? There is no more tries. There's nothing. What was that like, and how did you get there? Or how did you? We kind of know how you got there, but what was it that moment that you said, "That's it"?
So I attempted suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I he knew. I swallowed a bottle of pills. He knew, and he said, all he looked at me with contempt and said, I hope you wake up in the morning and walked out of the room. And I called a friend. She called 911. I went to the hospital. I got admitted. I got on medication that it did end up working. So when I got home from the hospital, we were having another argument. They were pretty frequent at this point. Um, and I was standing in the bathroom, looking at myself in the mirror, trying to convince myself that I could do that I was okay. And he walked in and he said, I'm done with you. And all I felt was relief. And I looked at myself in the mirror and my like 10 years came off my face. And I said, okay. And he said, no, I'm serious this time. I'm done with you. And I said, okay, I heard you. And then I don't think he believed that that was the end for me, but I started to take steps to distance myself. And I started to take steps to, I contacted laws. I asked them, what do I do? Like, I'm in this abusive relationship. I need to get my kids and myself out safely. How can I do that? I said, I'm financially dependent on this person. I've been a stay-at-home mom. I'm completely scared. I have no idea what to do. So they gave me, that's the laws is my local abuse women's hotline. And they gave me concrete steps to take to start to feel like I could have a life outside of the marriage. And that helped immensely. I didn't tell anybody I was doing it. That was the big,
Hmm.
I felt bad. I felt like I was keeping a secret, but then I kept having to tell myself this isn't a secret. This is for my safety and my children's safety.
That's
It's
right.
not exactly a secret. Because I don't like keeping secrets. I am not a liar. I feel anxious when I lie, so I just don't do it. Um, so that was it. That was the moment where I said, like, in that moment when he said he was done, and I felt that relief, and like I looked at myself in the mirror, and I looked like me again, and I thought, okay, thank God.
Yes. Thank God. And the goddess, who's ever around.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
I don't care. I don't know. Maybe there's many. I don't know. All
Thank
I'm
you,
saying.
universe.
Thank you, universe, for
Yeah.
that. One of the most amazing parts of your story is that moment that we don't talk enough about, that you helped yourself get to that moment. You did, like you guys taught me about situational awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a lot of what you were looking at, the situation you were in.
Mm-hmm.
What you did in the mirror, Amber, and I say this all the time, if you remember, I realized that since I'm not in the military, I said, okay, situational awareness, I get that. But SA kept coming back to me, SA, and I kept thinking, well, that stands for self-awareness too.
Mm-hmm.
And literally standing in the mirror, looking at yourself, was not the situation. You were looking at you,
Mm-hmm.
something you had control over, the times you had used that before.
Mm-hmm.
You signed up for the military, you took tests, you detonated bombs. I mean, there were so many times in your life that you were able to do something for you, that you had to take a look at your ability to do something dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't help but think, looking in the mirror, how important that was, that you just shifted the focus ever so much to you, because that's what you deserve to look at, is you. And then you said, I look 10 years. Man, there's almost a part of me right now that wants to find that mirror that helped me look 10 years younger. But I mean, it's that idea of self-awareness.
Yeah.
And you felt relief.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, do you still feel that?
Yes,
So that's the gift that keeps on giving.
it is. It is. Yes. So I've, in the, since we split, I've been actually reading up a lot on, I know the word narcissism is thrown out a lot these days,
Yeah.
but I have been reading up on narcissistic abuse and what that looks like. And it really ticked all the boxes. And so I've been reading up on how to heal from that. And that's helped a lot. It's helped
That's
me a lot.
that's great. And you're still in school? Where are you in your school? What's going
Mhm.
on?
I have taken a break because I did over the summer, like we moved, the kids moved schools, it was pretty hectic.
Mhm.
So I haven't signed back up yet, but my plan is to. But I only have 3 semesters left. I'm almost done.
Wow.
And I was like through all of this, I was getting my master's degree, like through all of this, like dealing with the infidelity, dealing with finding out who he really was, and he wasn't the person I thought he was, dealing with all of that.
Mhm.
I was still getting A's and B's if in my master's program. I don't even know how I did that. Like one of the therapists I went to was like, I don't know how you did that. I honestly, I don't know
Right.
if you were
And
present enough to do that.
and isn't that odd that we can't see? We cannot see our greatness.
No, I
We
didn't.
can't. Like, and that's the trouble with childhood trauma. It sets us up so that other traumatic people can come in and take the place.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, as bright as you are, as bright as I was. And when
Mhm.
I looked at someone who was very abusive in my life, I was very young at the time, and I said, you can't treat me, you shouldn't be treating me this way. He looked right at me and said, well, you must like it because you're still here. And I was like, oh, a light bulb went off. A light bulb went off for me, because I went, oh, wait, I don't like it. I do not like it. And that was it for me. That click, once that went on, you're right about the relief and that ability to release the courage, not find it. It's already there.
Mhm.
You've already had this courage. You had the courage all through your childhood. You had the courage to go into the military, courage to go to college. So you've always had this courage, but it goes deep and it's hard to access at times. And it's hard to remember how strong it is. And
Mhm.
so that moment when you felt that relief, it's almost like I liken it to the pressure coming off and the pressure coming off and you being able to access that courage again.
Yeah, that's that's really what it felt like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So this is very funny. While I'm talking to you, I'm getting a phone call from another Boulder Crest person. I got to just tell him real quick that I'm on a call already. But I really, really appreciate all that you're saying about this. I just told him I'm on a Zoom. So there. Um, so Amber, what's the step now? How do you go back into life, meeting other people? You're young, your kids are growing
Oh,
up.
yeah.
Like, yeah, what's that like? So tell me what that's going to be like.
Very terrifying. Oh my
Yes.
God, so terrifying. I was I was so terrified I was going to encounter the same type of person. And I have encountered the same type of people, but when I did start dating again, I kind of approached it like, okay, I've done this work on myself. I feel better. Um, let's see if I can test out these like boundaries and see if I can see the red flags and see how good I am at walking away. And so that's how I approach dating. I didn't approach it in like I want a relationship because even now I'm not sure I'm ready for that level of
Okay.
commitment because there's still residual things that come up for me that um I do still have to deal with them. We do have kids together. I do still have to deal with them. And so there are residual things that come up for me um from what he's done. So yeah, so I didn't approach it like I'm looking for a relationship. I approached it like, how can I recognize the red flags? Like, how can I enforce my boundaries? How can I like, and how well can I stick to those and walk away when it doesn't feel right? And I really paid attention to my body. So if I was around someone and I was feeling any kind of anxious, I didn't see that person again. That was the end of the date. I didn't see that person again.
Right. Because the body knows. That's the
Yeah.
first place that children experience danger,
Hmm.
like stomach aches, any kind of a strong fight, flight, freeze, fawn experience, like, just that intuition. And we tell children not to follow that intuition. Go give Uncle Harry a kiss. And we feel
Oh,
something from Uncle Harry that is not okay. And
yeah.
the adults are telling us to go near a perpetrator that we've already figured out is not safe, even if we don't have the words for it.
Yeah, and that was one thing I never did with my kids, like, much to my, like, in-laws' dismay. I never ever said, "Go give that person a hug." Like, if they didn't want to, they didn't want to, and I told them that was okay.
Yep, that's right. Because that we've got to honor people's intuition and that energy. That's where you first experience the red flags is in your body. There's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score, and it will explain how important it is. Babies have no ability to be able to say that they're afraid or they're scared or they're sad or anything. We tell them that when they start to cry. They're just feeling either pleasure or discomfort.
Mhm.
And they could cry because their diaper's wet, not because they're afraid. They're,
Yeah.
they're, they just have discomfort. So everything starts with the body first. So I've never heard anybody say this, and I'm going to just tell you, I'm going to steal all of it, except I'm not going to steal. I'm going to ask if I can borrow it and give you credit. I'm going to give you credit for all those 4 things you described and put your name by Amber Rhodes there. And you just said, I hope everybody's listening to this. I'm not looking for a relationship when I'm dating. I'm looking and practicing to see if I can find safety and if there's red flags.
Hmm.
I mean, this is from a bomb tech, people. This is for somebody, right? That
Someone who
would
would
have
walk
thought
up on a live bomb and
that.
it would with their hands. Yeah.
Right. This is somebody that had to make sure that that bomb wasn't going to go off. It wasn't about anything else other
Yeah.
than that. So when you said I'm not looking for a relationship, I can't tell you how many people say to me all the time, "Yeah, I'm dating. I'm looking for a relationship." Like even in the dating apps, they go, "What do you want? You know, in a relationship?" It's like I don't want any red flags. I want.
Right.
How about safety? Like it's amazing that you've figured out that the step process, and this partly is military training. One of the things that's so amazing is that you take small steps. You lead up to the big step. You don't start. They don't give you a weapon and send you out into the field,
No.
right? Like you're looking at it in a like, what's this part? It's like
Yeah.
you're trained and trained and trained and retrained before you're asked to use that weapon or to do anything in the military. So why
Mhm.
wouldn't you use that great way of situational awareness and self-awareness? You said two things. You're going to watch for the red flags, but you're going to also take a look at yourself and how you're responding, what
Yeah.
you're feeling at that moment.
Yeah. Because I thought that, my body knows far before my brain can sort it out what the hell's going on. So if my body knows that something feels wrong, it's wrong.
Right, right. The other thing that you said in this text was you talked about one of the most important things that obviously you didn't have a lot of in your childhood nor in your marriage, and that's laughter.
Yes. Yeah.
You mentioned it a couple of times in this text to me, Amber. So I look for the words that people use over and over. And it
Mhm.
was near the end of the text, and you talked about how important it was to laugh and how much laughter you're like that is so healing physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Laughter, that joy that comes because you've had enough fear and sadness.
Yeah, no, for like 5 lifetimes.
That's right. That's right. So, laughter is
Yeah.
so. Talk to me more about how you've brought, accepted, and created more laughter in your life.
So so it's funny. The guy that I'm dating now, our first date, I didn't feel like in first meeting with him and first talking with him, it wasn't awkward. I didn't have butterflies because that's just anxiety. Um, and I felt really comfortable in his energy, like if I can use that word. Like
Yeah.
I just felt really safe and comfortable in his energy. And it's funny because we started talking to the other people around us, and the one guy was at like talking to us, and we're like, yeah, we've never been here before, it's our first date. And he was like, it's your first date? And we were like, we kind of looked at each other like, yeah. And he goes, because we're like, why? He goes, because the two of you look so comfortable together. I never would have guessed that this was your first date, because usually everybody just looks really awkward and you can tell that they're just meeting each other for the first time. And we're both kind of like, oh, okay.
So that comfort, and I loved what you said. We're all looking for the butterflies. Like somehow that's a real good indicator. It could be indigestion, by the way. So I think we have to be careful about that Hallmark version. I guess I shouldn't say Hallmark anymore. No one knows what a Hallmark card is anymore. We're not sending cards. We got to come up with something else. But that idea that
This movie, the idea
yeah,
that you can fall in love in 3 days, like it's just so unrealistic.
yeah, the movie version of
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
That. So you're right. As opposed to what if we have this asked backwards? What if you're supposed to be comfortable and safe first? And you're
Yeah.
supposed to be able to laugh and work together by do all that. And then those big joyous butterfly moments, that wonderful feeling of seeing that person isn't really supposed to come until you're safe.
Yeah, that didn't really come until later. Like
Yeah. What if it's
five
supposed
or
to
five or
be
six
down?
months later was the first time I felt like butterflies to be seeing him. And like that was great, because then I knew like this is excitement. It's not anxiety.
That's right. Oh my gosh. We've got to like tell everybody this, that you've got to build the friendship first and the safety first, and then that joy, that exciting joy that you feel when the person comes home, that could last forever because it's built on this feeling of safety and caring,
Mm-hmm.
not anxiety,
Yeah.
not the unknown, but the known. It's
Mm-hmm.
based on the known.
I'm not gonna lie, like it felt so unfamiliar. The safety, the comfort. There were a few times I wanted to bolt because it just felt foreign.
I'm sure it is.
It did, but then I thought like, no, like this guy's like he's nice to me, he's good to me, he's
Yeah.
respects me.
And it's consistent.
He's consistent. He hasn't changed from the day I met him to now. Like he's been the same person the whole time.
You know, my mother taught me something. She had a very troubled childhood and she had polio and all kinds of things. And she said something to me that really, she said, Suzi, I want to warn you about something that can happen when a lot of trauma happens. And she said, you can become crisis oriented. Now, that's a superpower for a bomb tech.
Yeah.
You should orient yourself to the crisis and have it be familiar and be able to calm down and think clearly and deal with it. I get
I'm
that.
very good at that. I'm very
Very
good
good.
at crisis.
Right. What she meant too, though, was if there isn't a crisis, you might feel invisible.
Mhm.
You might feel lost. You might even create one
Yes.
because you need them so badly to find your value.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've kind of self-sabotaged the relationship a couple of times, like without even realizing that's what I was doing. But I've gotten better at catching myself before it gets to that point, and recognizing that it's not him, it's
Yeah.
my brain expecting this is what's going to happen next because
Right.
things are going well, so this other shoe has to drop.
That's right.
And if it doesn't, then I have to find reasons for it too.
Yeah.
So
And that's the sort of after effects of too much trauma and too
mhm,
much chaos. It really is. And so we've got to be aware of that. So what happens in childhood trauma and then continuing it into adult trauma, and this is true for me too, is this idea then that the stress response system is always on alert. It never comes down until we take conscious, daily, sometimes 3 or 4 times a day practices to keep it at a safer level, a level that we then won't use it to create that crisis.
mhm,
Like we'll still be able to respond. You will always be the person I want to stand next to when the shit hits the fan, Amber. I just do. What we don't want to do is be the person that turns the fan on or throws the shit at the fan. We don't want to be that person.
yeah, and I don't want to be that person.
That's right. And that's for me, that's why I call everything a practice.
Yeah, it has taken a lot of practice.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who I've known for about the same amount of time. She's getting out of we have similar upbringing, similar backgrounds. She was in a similar marriage. So we are able to kind of talk each other down when that happens. Like, no, this is like to get to like the root of what's really going on. Look at the
Right.
facts.
Right.
Like, no,
Right.
he hasn't done anything. If you look at the facts, like, no, things are actually going really well,
That's
and
right.
you're just getting scared because they're going really well. Like,
Yeah.
just yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's perfect. Look, I could talk to you all day. I want to do this if it's okay with you. I'd like to have you come back in about a month and tell us more of your wisdom and more of your story. One of the things I'd like to touch on next time too is the physical and mental and emotional practices that you use now
okay.
to create the person you deserve to be and the life you deserve to have, even in parenting, so that when we talk about healing and really changing the way we react, the way we, how we heal our brain, how we heal ourselves. I would like to hear all the practices, like you just gave us one, but that idea that there are things we can do on a daily basis that can keep us uh, well, crazy well.
Yeah,
And so would you like to come back and do that?
I would love to.
That would be
Yeah.
amazing. That would be awesome. All right, Amber Rhodes, I can't thank you enough. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of yours. I've been a fan for a long time. I can't wait to see the kids. I want to see them, and they probably won't remember me, which is fine. Oh, they might. They might remember the old crazy gray-haired lady.
I asked it, Bradley remembers you, Addison doesn't, but
Yeah,
maybe if she saw you, she remembers. She's pretty little.
yeah, she was. All right. Thank you so much
Mhm.
for doing this. It's very courageous. Then again, we all know how courageous you are. Now the rest of the world's going to know. So talk about talk about letting people understand how the men and women that have gone through trauma and the men and women in the military, how you can use this amazing courage that you have to be of service, to now be of service to yourself and literally change the trajectory of your children and your life.
Yeah, that's always been my goal when
Yeah.
I had kids, was to stop the cycle that I went through. I
Yeah.
never wanted that for them.
Yeah. And if you look at Amber, you'll see that she looks like she's 12. She also sells face product. I'll let her. Obviously, I need it. I haven't bought any, nor have I put any on this whole face, but you just look so healthy, and I can't thank you enough, Amber. Like I said, bless you. And we'll talk
Yeah,
again soon.
yeah. Okay.
All right.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, Be Crazy Well. Hey, the theme song is by Kalvin Love. You should look him up. He's got all kinds of wonderful songs, and it's called Be Your Best Self. So until next week, everybody be crazy well. We deserve it. Bye, Amber.
Bye.